Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. I know a few people are still trickling in. Well, good evening. Thank you for joining us here at Wausau East High School this evening to talk about some of the challenges that we're facing and some of the potential solutions like restructuring. So I just want to say thank you for being here tonight. This is an important conversation, and your input and your feedback is so very important to this conversation. And I also want you to know that it matters. Every single voice matters in this process. So thank you for fitting us into your schedule tonight. We really do appreciate it. So with that, I'd like to introduce just a few members of our school board that are here tonight. We have President Jim Boucher, Vice President Lance Trollope, and board member Corey Sillers. So they are here as well to hear your thoughts and your feedback. So please be sure we'll have plenty of time at the end for any questions, comments, and your ideas. If you have a solution to the challenges that we're facing, please share them. So again, your feedback is very important. So like I said, we'll have plenty of opportunity for your questions and comments, but before we do that, we're going to have a presentation for you. And within that presentation, we're going to talk about the challenges, but we're going to do it from that 7 Habits of Highly Effective People eye lens through that. So that's very useful in our classroom, and our students are learning all about those. So this is a great opportunity for us to reiterate how we can use that in this process. So to get us started tonight, I have a short video for you. It's really going to kind of set the stage for this conversation tonight. In it, you're going to hear some perspectives from some of our parents and some of our staff about why this is an important conversation, and certainly why now is the time to make a change for the good of everybody involved. So with that, we'll go ahead and play that. Just having some technical difficulties. We should have that available here in a second, but just so that you're aware, this video and so much more information is available on our website right now. So we encourage you at any hour of the day to visit wausauschools.org. If you click on About WSD and then the Future of the Wausau School District, that'll lead you right to the page. On that page, you'll see this video and others, an explanation of those challenges that I talked about, some of the solutions, and the work of the subcommittees over the summer that really studied the data and challenges and then talked about potential solutions. So I just encourage you to log on to that website. There's also an opportunity there for you to give your feedback. So at this time, we'll just see if this video is ready to go.
Opportunity, a word defined as a set of circumstances that make it possible to do something. The Wausau School District is full of opportunities, but because of the way we're structured, a child doesn't necessarily have access to the same opportunities depending on which school they're in. And for Wausau School District graduate and parent Kelly Radickle, that doesn't sit well.
I feel at some point we have to just reflect on the process, reflect on how we're doing things, and is it truly the best for our students here in Wausau? And if we can do things better, why not? Why not take the chance on our kids?
She's not the only one feeling that way. Wausau School District graduate, teacher, and parent Joe Stashik agrees. For 16 years, he split his time between Wausau East and Wausau West as an agriculture teacher. And he'll be the first to admit that was hard, both professionally.
By 7 o'clock, there were West students trying to find me because they knew I was only there in the morning. And then the same thing, kids would be waiting for me when I arrived at Wausau East. So as a teacher, that doesn't give you a whole lot of wiggle room for prep and grading and getting things ready.
And personally.
I mean, we always want to have a focus on students first, and all good teachers in this district will stop what they're doing to help those kids. But it takes a toll on a teacher. I was way more stressed out. I had a lot less time. I spent a lot longer hours here in the building after school trying to get caught up. And now being at the one building has made a tremendous difference for not only my students and my kids, but my personal life and well-being also.
Like Radickle, Stashik is an advocate for a restructure of this district.
I think our district wants to be as efficient as we can for not only our kids, our parents, our stakeholder groups, but also our community. Right now, we have to buy equipment for 2 shops, one at East, one at West, and we're buying the same equipment for 2 different places. That's not always the most efficient thing to be doing when we could focus on all the kids at one location. It would give us opportunities to use the same money that we have now, but have bigger, better, and give kids better experiences and career opportunities that they probably didn't even know existed.
opportunities that go far beyond academics. The activities directors at both Wausau East and Wausau West are excited about the doors a restructure could open up to everyone, students, staff, and even the community. Opportunities that truly seem endless.
So not only could we fill all our levels at our current sports that we offer, but now we could offer extended offerings off of that. So for football, we could have all levels of football being offered on top of that with having an intramural program. So kids that still want to be involved with the sport. I also see it from a recreational standpoint. You see a lot of our culture changing more to that hiking, biking, kayaking, I would say more of the rec sport type competitions. So we could open up that opportunity to single trek, mountain biking clubs.
A move they feel will truly elevate the Wausau School District to the next level, because by pooling resources for things like clubs and activities, the impact could be felt far beyond just our high schools.
I think it also gives us the opportunity to kind of spread some of those resources down. So we improve the opportunities and offerings at our middle school and get back where we used to have some of those opportunities in our elementary schools. One of the problems we have now is we don't have those opportunities at our elementary school, which forces our families to have to rely on those clubs to participate, and oftentimes those clubs cost a lot of money. So some of our lower socioeconomic families don't have the opportunity to participate at those lower grade levels.
Not to mention, we'd all unite in the process.
I would say we're better together. The more we combine and the more prosperous we can become, the more engaging and intriguing it is going to be to come to our city and to our school.
I think ultimately we have to look at it from the lens of what's best for all students and not necessarily our own. And it's not about being selfish, but it's kind of about being selfless. Like, what can we do to make this the best opportunity for all of the families and all of our community members? And I think if you can step back from the lens of how it impacts you personally, or maybe impacts your children, and not a give and take, but rise everybody up together. That would be my hope in doing this, is that this would make us not only a better school district, but a better overall community.
Because at the end of the day, this very conversation about restructuring is really about opportunities. The same opportunities for every single person in this district, and also creating even more opportunities in the process. Or as the definition says, a set of circumstances that make it possible for the Wausau School District to do something. And that something is to be the very best it can be for you, your children, and our community.
This is a great opportunity for us to think outside the box. And this is a time for us to kind of rally together as one community to embrace change, to move past how we've always done it, and to really focus on the outcome and what that could look like for our kids and our future, and to set them up for the best experience.
And here in the Wausau School District, we pride ourselves on making sure our students are set up for success well beyond the time that they're with us. So now we're going to get started with our presentation, and at this time I'd like to bring up our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Keith Hiltz.
Thank you, Diana. Here's the clicker. Excuse me. Good evening, how are you? Good, good. How many of you have seen this presentation before? Oh, okay, about half. Well, you don't count. You're all with me. So, all right. So many of you are new. Okay, just kind of, we want to make sure that we, meet your needs. We want to give you enough background information. Like as Diana said, we are very interested in hearing your thoughts on this. So, let's go ahead and get started. This is what we'd like to do tonight. You saw the opening video. We'll talk about this restructuring through the lens of the 7 habits of highly effective people. We want to give you a little update on feedback, review some subcommittee work, talk about a vision for this work and why we're doing it. A little bit of analysis, and then some a draft restructure idea, so you have something concrete to respond to. always want to start with the why. And in this case, the main why is about people, our students and our staff and our families. We know that we have disparate experiences across our district. We also know, so students have access to different programs, and we want them to have equal access. We know that staff have different working conditions. We know that family have different experiences in our district, and we want to do what we can to give everybody equal opportunities. In addition to that, we have some concerning trends around declining enrollment. We're about 1,000 students smaller than we were 10 or 15 years ago. That makes a difference on our revenue, on the programs, on the staffing. So we want to respond to some of those, get ahead of some of those trends. So our why is to improve service to families and students and staff by becoming more efficient. In case you aren't familiar with the 7 habits, here's a quick reminder or a quick introduction. The first 3 habits are about me as a person, right? How I need to be proactive. I need to know where I'm going and begin with the end in mind. I need to put the most important things first. Then we work into how do I become a good community member, a good team member. Win-win. And that's different than compromise, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But think win-win. Seek first to understand. That's why we're here tonight. Then to be understood. Synergize, sharpen the saw. There is an 8th habit. Find your voice. We may talk about that a little later. Matter of fact, we'll give you the opportunity later to find your voice. So, let's talk about habit 1. Be proactive. We've talked a little bit about those concerns. Inconsistent student access to programming, inconsistent staffing, inconsistent staff working conditions. We've all heard a lot about the difficulties in attracting staff, employees, right? That's another trend. Our declining enrollment trend. Open enrollment is a big concern for us. Open enrollment is an opportunity for families to choose the school they attend regardless of their attendance area of where they live. And right now, several families are choosing to leave our district, and that is a huge concern for us. And then financial challenges that we face. Some of the feedback that we've gotten from folks from previous presentations was, can you help us understand a little bit better some of these staffing differences and some of the student differences? So here's just a few examples. For our elementary staff, our K-5 class sizes vary widely, from 8 to 29. And so you can imagine the difference in that experience in those classrooms. Many of our staff are split between multiple schools, and what they share with us is it's difficult when they don't have a home, they don't know who their principal really is, they don't have the support of that consistent team. So that's something we would like to address. The presence or absence of support teachers or resource teachers, like a math resource teacher or a reading or a gifted and talented or a special education teacher. And very different learning environments across our schools. Some of our schools are older, some are newer, some have very small classrooms and are very warm in the spring and fall without air conditioning, and one good outlet just because they didn't have that many when they built the school. So while other folks enjoy a really comfortable, well-lit environment, we'd like to address some of those differences as well. At the secondary level, and you heard in the video, Mr. Stoshik, wonderful agriculture teacher, he never complains, so when I heard him say that, I'm like, I guess I never knew that. But I think he represents a number of our staff at the secondary who just have very different work conditions. The number of classes that someone has to prepare for. Larger schools offer better economies of scale, larger. Oh, hello, Mr. Stoshik. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were here. I wouldn't talk about you. Larger schools offer larger academic teams. They can divide that workload, whereas in a smaller school, they really have to do everything, including student groups, teach all the classes. So big differences there. It's, again, related to that number of teams. And again, we split staff amongst our schools. So that's a little insight into some of those differences in working conditions. Related to students, very different aspects in terms of programming. We were going through the course booklets between East and West. I couldn't begin to summarize the numbers of differences and the opportunities that students have on one campus and not another. And I should let you know that we would allow students to take courses at the other high school, but the transportation barriers and the scheduling barriers have really proven to be almost insurmountable for them to be able to do that effectively. We've used some creative with the technology and things, but it's far from what we want it to be. I made a note there. We offer courses, but a lot of times, particularly here at East, we'll get calls that say, "Why can't my child take this course? Why did you cut this class?" And we didn't. We just didn't have enough students to enroll to run that class. So the economies of scale really make a difference for our kids. Numbers of sports, 31 at West, 24 at East. Numbers of clubs and opportunities there, 45 at West, 31 at East. And again, we want our kids to all have a great opportunity, the equal opportunities. So that's just, again, trying to give you some illustration on what are those differences. Continuing with habit 1, be proactive. You can see, this is a graph of, the orange graph is the enrollment in the Wausau School District. The scale for that line graph is on the right. So you can see it's from 8830 down to 7630. The blue line is the enrollment trend in the state of Wisconsin. The entire state is declining, but the center part of the state and the northern part of the state declining much more rapidly. So you can see where we used to be up about 9,000 in 2007, and now we're just below 8. So that is a trend. We don't see it changing. People are having fewer children. That has a huge impact on us. We want to be proactive and get ahead of that before this forces us into a change where we can't be proactive, where we have to react to it. I'm going to skip over habits 2 through 4 for now, because before we can have the end in mind, we have to seek first to understand, right? We want to understand your perspective, and then, so we can come to an understanding here. So one thing that has bothered me ever since I got here is that, we have staff asking us, can you please do something about class size disparities? Can you get some more, resource teachers? And because of, financial limitations and others, I've had to say no. And I would really like the opportunity to be able to say yes and be able to help them. So we are listening to our staff, we're listening to you. We identified 13 potential benefits if we were to go through this restructuring process. And we asked people, which of these are important to you? Which are your most important? And I know you can't read that. If you look at this online, you certainly can. But we did get feedback. This is from our families. This is from our staff. And what I thought was probably most important for this conversation was their top 5. And really good news, they agreed. Right? They said, these are the 5 things that if we were to restructure, that would be most important to us. Enhancing that student support, expanding their academic and co-curricular experiences, balancing staff experiences, cost savings, and class sizes. So that's a good thing to have in mind for us to understand as we engage in this conversation. So we've been listening. We want you to know that we want you to understand us as well. This is a dialogue. So Diana White, who you met recently, she put together an entire restructuring website. It's called The Future of the Wausau School District. It's on our site. You can go there, and she has assembled all of the information that we've been reviewing through this whole conversation. I can't remember if we've mentioned this, but the school board last spring, sorry, I'm talking to people's backs now. I keep walking up. The school board created 2 subcommittees last spring who met throughout the summer. They did some wonderful work. They spent many, many hours here learning all of the different aspects so that they could help us determine, is restructuring a possible solution to some of our challenges? And if we did, what might be some really good options? So they did great work. And so all of the presentations, all of the board presentations, all of the videos, the FAQ that you picked up in the back, all on that website link, and you can access that right there. Now, is Mr. Ekman here and I just not see him? Okay, so we were going to hear, at our last subcommittee, we asked a few subcommittee members to come and speak. We were going to have Mr. Ekman, who's the director of the Chamber of Commerce, come tonight. I'm surprised he's not here. I hope everything's okay. But we will, actually, he's going to be on our next video. So you will hear from Mr. Ekman. It'll just be in video format instead of live tonight. So we will skip over this part. So, habit 1. Habit 5, seek to understand. Now let's go. Habit 2. Mr. Ekman, I just was introducing you. Or saying, come on in. Oh, you couldn't get in. So, we will hear from Mr. Ekman. I'll give you a moment to take your jacket off and make yourself comfortable. Dave Ekman from the Wausau Chamber of Commerce, great partner of ours and to the business community. He was on our subcommittee, by the way, on the subcommittees, we had parents and staff. Several of our board members were there. Lots of evenings from June through August. So like I said, it was a diverse group, a very passionate group about the district and the community. So before we talk about habit 2, which is begin with the end in mind, kind of a shared vision, Dave, are you ready? Come on up. Yeah. I was a little worried about you when you didn't show.
I just spent 2 hours with the technical college, so it's my education day. If you don't know me, I'm a big advocate for education, K-16. Okay.
So, Dave, just wondering if you could share with the group kind of your experience from the subcommittee and maybe some thoughts about the potential of the restructuring.
Okay. Being involved with the subcommittee this summer, it's really interesting because you come in from an outside mindset, with K-12, and I've worked with all the K-12s in the area for many years. But when you're with the faculty and the administration, the complexity of the challenges in front of the community in the education system, the school district, it's complex. And it gives everybody, especially from my perspective coming in, you can make some assumptions here and there. This should be easy. It's not. It's very complex. You have a large task in front of you. The engagement with yourself, in the school board, right there, sleeves rolled up, working with everybody to get this done. A great process. Very enlightening. The academic challenge, the extracurricular challenge, and I can just tell you from my perspective, and being in the business community here for a decade plus, almost 2 decades, it's that river, right? It's one of the greatest challenges, but there's an opportunity. From a business perspective, I can tell you that in an economic development perspective, is it okay if I go that way? Okay. I just left the technical college, working with business and industry and the university system, so UWSP and NTC working together on Industry 4.0 and what our business community needs in terms of resources, but it matters here. That conversation that I just had translates to my being here tonight. Sorry I'm late. But this restructure, economic development-wise, it must occur. I'm reading a book right now, and I would challenge you if you look. It's called Headquarters Economy, and Headquarters Economy is a book about what companies, large and small, need in their communities to remain and thrive, or they leave. Okay, and so you scale it down from a Minneapolis, St. Paul to a Wausau, Wisconsin. It's relevant. The K-12 restructuring. We're not growing. Our demographics are shrinking, and I think all of you know that. We have to try to grow our population, retain our population. My kids, they went to the other district, but my job here, what I do every day is try to build a community that's going to allow them to come back here and thrive and want to be here for the rest of their life and grow their families here and raise their families here. This institution, the Wausau School District, is so very important in that because families who want to come here are looking at the schools, and they look at the K-12, and they make decisions based on the K-12, number one, post-secondary, number two. And do they have the resources where they want their students, or their kids, where their students, to be getting what they need to excel in life. And we're in a time when we know resources are short, finances are short. There's a political thing with respect to education that we have to overcome. We have to support public education. Business and industry want to do that too, but they want to make sure there's alignment between what the school does academically, and it aligns to the economy, and it aligns to their needs, because if we're not doing that alignment, and we're not getting that skill set and that pipeline set for the students to move from the primary, secondary, post-secondary to business and industry, they're going to expand elsewhere. And if we're not, look at this is beautiful, you know? To be a magnetic community, we have to have a very innovative education system in Wausau School District. And I think they're on the cusp of doing it. I believe they are. We support it from a business and industry perspective. But to challenge the community as a whole, we cannot settle for status quo. The world is moving rapidly, and we have to move along with it. We have to change. We have to transform. There's really no choice in it. There really is not. And what you're trying to get done here, Keith, with the district and your team, the community needs to get on board as to why. The transformation just with technology and the things that we're trying to do to align to make sure the whole community, despite the river, has the opportunity to grow. And there's different things for family. Is there going to be change? Absolutely, there's change all the time. And you have to work with it, you know. And I'm here as a champion. This is absolutely necessary. It is. There will come a time when you have to make really hard financial decisions, and you're not going to like what those decisions are. Be part of the movement forward. Be in front of it. Or we lose as a community. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. If I can do anything else, let me know.
Will do. Thank you very much for sharing your perspective. I hope you can stay for a bit, right? And we'll have some more of this conversation. So, we've had a number of conversations with the business community. They see the value in this direction. So let's talk about this vision. We talk about, at our elementary levels, we really want to build confident learners, develop those skills. As they progress into middle school, skill development and exploration. when you think about all the jobs, I know it seems weird sometimes to think about jobs with middle schoolers, but that's when they start to explore, right? Start to make some decisions. If you take all the jobs in the world, they kind of fall into 16 pathways. We would like students to be able to explore each of those pathways so they know what opportunities are even available to them. In junior high, let's really inspire them. They've got some skills now, they kind of know where they want to go. Let's really inspire them and start to build a plan. In the high school, let's implement that plan. Let's connect them with employers and higher education. Let's help them build, they and your parents, build a plan that says, this is what I'd like to do. Here's how I'm going to get my training. Here's how I'm going to pay for it. Here's my professional mentor. And then they're ready. They're ready to be a young adult. So that's kind of the vision that's driving this. At the elementary level, a little more specific, it's really about meeting students' needs when they need them to be met. We do everything we can now. Matter of fact, the other night I was at a PTO meeting and they said, can't you solve these problems without restructuring? And just kind of, this is what we do every day. We try to give kids opportunities, we try to support staff, we try to meet kids' needs when they need it. And for structural reasons, we haven't been able to do it as well as we want to. So that's really driving this. Again, balance those staff experiences, give some of those resource teachers to allow, again, to better serve students and families. Some more feedback. People said, well, exactly how will this impact children? So we put this together to try and clarify that. So kids all come with different gifts and different needs. So if you happen to have a child who is gifted academically, those academic support teachers can help them, whether they're, again, gifted and talented teachers, whether they're reading teachers, math teachers, whatever that might be. Also enhanced behavioral supports. There are children who have behavioral needs, and sometimes their behaviors interrupt class, interrupt the learning environment. We want to be more proactive and intervene before those behaviors interrupt the class, so all students can continue to learn. We talked about gifted and talented support. So for instance, right now, we have in our district 3.5 gifted teachers to serve 13 elementary schools. If we had fewer elementary schools, even our existing resources would be spread across fewer schools, and those kids would be concentrated. We could serve them more consistently. And we really want to expand our academic offerings. And by eliminating duplication of services, we can do that. What if you have a really gifted athlete? People are concerned that if we merged our high schools, for instance, we'd only have one varsity team. Yes. But that level of success and competition would grow for a really gifted athlete. They'll have more opportunities. We could, I know our athletic directors are here, and they're I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say they're very excited about the possibility of improved facilities, stronger coaching teams, because coaches are hard to find. And if we can only find coaches for one team versus two, that helps us out as well. Additionally, let's say you have a student, just an average student. Most students are just average students, right? And that's great. They have their own talents to nurture. So again, those academic support teachers, the behavior, those I would put in every category, frankly, because they can help every child. One thing that we're excited about in terms of athletic sports is creating an intramural program. We've heard from a number of children who tell us they aren't interested in competition. They don't want to come to practice 5 nights a week. They don't want to do camps in the summers, but they want to go with their friends and play soccer. We could create that opportunity in a safe, supervised place, and that's something else that we are fairly excited about. I've got more of these. They start to get a little repetitive, but we have every child in mind. And I'm going to, just in the interest of time, because I know many of you are going to want to have questions and comments, I'll let you look at this later. But gifted artists, struggling students, disengaged students, we can help them all a little bit better. Let's start talking about some concrete what are we talking about with our restructure? There were two elementary ideas discussed, and frankly, we could do several iterations of this. But one that we've talked about in the past, we could close 3 schools, Lincoln, Rib, and Hewitt, Texas. Reasons being are mainly maintenance costs and geography, right? There are some of the main considerations there. There was another one, and idea 2 actually came from parents in the elementary subcommittee. They said, hey, what if we took the 4K academies out of the elementary schools, put them in their own space, close some other schools, and use that school capacity by the vacated 4Ks to move other elementaries in there. We had briefly considered it, but had kind of dismissed it, but now that we've started looking, we really kind of like this. So these are some ideas that were generated and explored. So let's talk about one possible scenario. Elementary. We currently have 13 elementaries, close 5, keep 8. Of those 5, we'll repurpose 3 of them. Our charter schools are excellent. Many people don't even know that. Mr. Trollope and I were with the Montessori Governance Council last night, and they say they regularly have conversations with parents who don't even know we have a Montessori school. It's an excellent opportunity. We need to market that more so people know what opportunities you have for your children. So we need to give them the spaces they need to be as successful as possible. We know that there's a child care issue. It affects parents. It affects our ability to hire people. We've lost employees because they couldn't find child care. It affects, Mr. Ekman would tell you that it affects the business community. We would love to be a part of that solution. And we've been told by some local providers that if we could maybe give them a space to use, they could expand child care access to really high quality child care. That helps everybody. Right? So we could repurpose 3 of them, sell 2, save those resources, and reinvest those into staff and programming. Right? So that, and then that 4K location with a question mark, we're still looking at that. How does this actually work? It really works through efficiencies. These are inaccurate numbers now. They were real at one time, but frankly, enrollment changes all the time. But essentially, if we were to combine those closed 5 schools, if we were to move Hewitt, Texas students and staff, one thing that parents suggested to us, requested maybe, if we combine schools, can we do it as whole school changes so that the staff can remain together and the families, whose children have grown up together can stay together. So if we moved full schools, currently the average class size at Hewitt, Texas is 16. At Riverview, it's about 24. You combine those and you end up with a class size of about 22. Now in this case, we don't gain efficiencies of teachers, okay? But in some cases, and I've got some notes a little bit later. In some cases you do. For instance, the next one, Rib and South. We moved Rib Mountain into South Mountain. Current class size or average class size is about 21. South Mountain's about 19. That 24, it could be 24, and we recover 4 teachers that we could reassign as resource teachers, or if we choose, we could reduce that class size and reassign some of those teachers to the classroom. The thing is, we would have an option. Right now, we really don't because of how tight we have to schedule. So you can see the rest of it, but that's kind of the mechanics of it. You merge 2 schools, take advantage of efficiencies, take the classroom teachers, reassign them into a resource teacher role. There's another one. Let me just take real quick on these notes here. This doesn't even consider our support staff. We, for one, no one will lose their job through this process. We need everybody we've got. So we could take the support staff and assign those as classroom support staff. There's a number of positions, frankly, that we have not been able to hire And that means that workload is spread across our other staff, puts a great deal of stress on them. We would like to right-size that staffing. Doesn't take into account some other staff. And I mentioned earlier the other example of, for instance, like I talked about GT, which is up there, being able to serve fewer schools instead of 13, right? And allowing their work to have more impact. So that's kind of the mechanics of how that happens. This is an attempt to show, of those 13 outcomes, which of those could we actually achieve? Anything with a check, it would achieve those. A couple of them are question marks. We don't know about, the top one is called intangibles, our culture, our traditions. That would have to be a separate team that really talks about that. Those are important. As a matter of fact, just a quick note. You'll note that it is had the fewest votes, if you will, for level of importance, but there are a number of people who say that's in their top 5. So, and we've heard from many people, what about our traditions? Will we be able to retain those? Right? So that's important to a number of people. So we can achieve most of our desired outcomes in that particular scenario. I'll quickly go through secondary as well. Here it's really about equal opportunity for students. We talked a little bit earlier about how the opportunities are different. We want to bring those together. Again, balanced work expectations for staff. We could better align our student experiences. They're very, very different in the two schools. And again, by not duplicating efforts, we can expand programming. Our secondary restructuring committee reviewed several options. This is a graphic trying to show. They looked at, is there any reason to do nothing? And they quickly said no. Those challenges that we're facing need to be addressed. They talked about changing boundaries. They talked about one high school. They talked about one high school on 2 campuses in a couple of different variations. When they had finished their months of work and exploration, the option that they felt had the most potential is that one in the big green graphic in the middle, that 8, 9, 10, 12. That's one that we're giving some extra attention to based on the feedback from that subcommittee. So in this case, if we created a junior high serving grades 8, 9 and a senior high serving grades 10, 12, then another domino effect of that, could be that maybe 5th grade then moves into the middle school. And as soon as I say that, parents get very nervous. I don't want my 10-year-old in the middle school. But there are a number of ways a 5th grader in the middle school could still be with an elementary teacher, just like they are in the elementary, right? So there are ways we could do that. But for purposes of exploration, we could create 5, 7 middle schools and then reconfigure our 2 high schools into that 8, 9, 10, 12 structure. Again, those same outcomes, we could achieve many of those through that effort. So, habit 2, that's kind of the vision. Begin with the end in mind. Habit 3, put first things first. It's all about better service to people, right? Better service to students and families, aligning our resources for better service. Habit 4 is think win-win. If we can improve service to students and families, become a more attractive employer, and make better use of our resources, that's a win-win-win. So we think we've got something there. Synergize is about new alternatives. That's what about these conversations, that's what this is about. Those subcommittees did some really nice work. We just want to work together to create the best version of this district. 7 is sharpen the saw. And why do you sharpen a saw? It's easier, right? When you use that saw to cut a board, to cut a tree, I always liked Abraham Lincoln's quote, and I may not get it quite right, but he said, if I had 8 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend 6 of it sharpening the axe, right? Because when you put that effort in, you get results. That's what this is about. Our staff work incredibly hard. Students are working hard. Families are working hard. Let's make sure that we get the best outcomes from that effort. This is in process. There is a long list. Part of the reason I created this pros and cons list is just to start to say, there is no perfect plan. If there was a perfect plan, we'd be doing it. There are benefits and there are costs to anything we do, even if we just stay still, right? So we're starting to put together a list of pros and cons and costs and benefits, and this is just starting to let you know, we know this is not a perfect proposal. So you can look, we could add to that list. That's just the beginning. These are just examples. So next steps, on Monday, the school board's going to start to look at some high school options, some of the ones you saw up here, and start to narrow options. Because to really create a plan would take thousands of staff hours and months. And so we want to know where we want to go before we start putting that kind of effort in. Timeline, this is just, the fastest it could go. If the board made a decision this winter, it would still be another year and a half before anything could really be implemented. All right, so this is a QR code. It's the same one that's on that sheet of paper if you pick that up on the way in. At this time, what we'd like to do is hear from you. We'll take, I wonder, Bob, would you mind grabbing an extra mic? We had another person who's come and help us today, but maybe if Diana goes over there, and John, if you go up there, and Bob, if you go over there, if someone has a question, a comment, a suggestion, we've got somebody with a mic. We are being recorded, so we do want to make sure that people who are watching online can hear your questions and the answers. And we've got a number of our administrative team here today who can help answer. We've got board members who have really valuable insights as well. So at this time, we'd really like to turn it over to you for commentary. Whoever would like to start. Oh.
Hi, my name is Fred Thiele. I have two grandchildren in the school district, freshman and junior. And this school district, I think, is phenomenal. It's a great school district. We have two wonderful high schools and a number of elementary schools. This school district has been known for years to be one of the best in the whole state. And I think we got to keep that in mind, that what we have is great. He keeps saying that we need to look forward. We are forward. We have two schools that have different philosophies, the modular system and the traditional system. Keep that in mind. The other thing, I won't talk very long, and people get a mic and they can't stop talking, but just a couple more points. One thing about the high school. My granddaughter's a freshman at East and is on the volleyball team. And she's not the best, and she admits that. She just wants to be on a team. And so we have 3 JV teams here at East. 3. It's wonderful. Everybody gets to play, almost. Now, if we go to one high school, you think there's going to be 6 volleyball JV teams? No, there's not enough room. Okay, another point about the varsity, and he mentioned this, that there will be just one varsity team. Right now we have 2, and this is important to kids. Yeah, he's talking about the intramural, and that's important too, but they strive to be on the varsity and the JV. That will end. It will just be the stars, and that's got to be kept in mind. The other thing is that Wausau East has about 900 students. That's not a small school. Wausau West has, I'm not sure, I think it's like 1,500 students, roughly. Spash, at one point, had 2,500 students, and they were ready to split. They were going to build a new school in Plover, but their enrollment started to shrink, and now I think they're probably under 2,000, like Everest is. So keep that in mind. We're going the opposite way. And I know we have shrinking enrollments, but perhaps there's other options like boundary changes and so forth. Elementary, I better stop talking, but there's a whole lot of reasons to keep neighborhood schools. Maybe those 3 schools have to be closed because of declining enrollment, but don't take away our neighborhood schools. We don't want factory schools. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll take the mic back, though.
No, I want it.
My name is Carl. I grew up here in Wausau. I went to East. I went to Hawthorne Hills. I went to Horseman. I went to Franklin. And when I see this plan, I see it as, and I am glad I moved to Stevens Point. I'm glad I will stay in Stevens Point because this is going backwards, like you said. I played on varsity baseball. I played on JV, and those plans you have will destroy the opportunity, like you said. This is a poison pill. This is a problem, and you will destroy the education system in Wausau. And I recommend you to go back to school, Mr. Doctor, whoever you are.
Okay. Other questions, comments, suggestions? Yes.
I have a quick one. I saw in one of, I'm Christine. I had children here at school years ago. Obviously, they're older. I saw in one of your graphs that as you combine the schools, that there will be schools that are at or above capacity. Does this not raise, I know it's under cons there, but does this not seem like a problem? What if there is a slight increase in population? Things happen. I mean, just out of curiosity, how would you mitigate the issues with that? Seems like a big one.
Yeah, we're looking at that right now, and actually at the elementary level, the idea of moving our 4Ks does mitigate that immediately and for a long term as well. So there are solutions. We just have to dig into those. We haven't gotten to that detail yet, but we already have one possible solution to that. So thank you. Mm-hmm. Hi, Carol.
Hi, I'm Carol Pond. I'm a parent in the district, and I worked for the district for a number of years, and I worked at Wausau West. I live on the east side, so I have a little bit of both perspectives. I have a question, but I do want to say I'm a huge proponent of always doing what's in the best interest of students, and right after that, the best interest of families. And this is really hard, and I and the board and Keith can say, you know, Carol is not always kind when she asks a lot of questions. And I really want to get to the bottom of why we're doing things. My main concern is class sizes at the secondary level. I want you to know there are disparities between the east side and the west side in the education that our children are getting. Not to say east teachers aren't teaching great, they are, but the type of opportunities is there. And I'm not as concerned about with athletics and activities. We are going to have those, they'll be wonderful. But academically, we don't have equal opportunities. In large districts that have multiple high schools, they have one registration course book for that high school. Appleton Area School District, Eau Claire School District, that have multiple high schools, 2, 3 high schools. It's one registration book, which means they have the same exact courses offered at each school. That means no matter where you live in the community, you get an equal opportunity at the same education. That's not the way it is here in Wausau. That's not acceptable, it's not okay, there has to be a solution. My question is, if we combine to one campus, what research is there, Dave or whoever else, about people looking at our district to move here? Are people interested in having their children be in a class size of 550 to 600 students, when Everest still is in that 300 range of a class size and will probably be larger than SPASH for class sizes? Is that a draw or is that a deterrent?
So there are a number of schools, that have class size of 500 to 600. Mr. Boucher worked at some of those very high achieving, suburb schools in Minneapolis. What size were they, Jim? I don't know. 3,200. Yeah, so 2,300 kids to 3,200 kids. very high achieving. Do you have any interest in responding to this? I guess research, in terms of, I think what parents tell me they want are high quality opportunities for their kids, exposure to, to what possibilities are available to them, people who care about them, right? That's what I hear that they want, and I don't think that, having a graduating class of 550 students would be a deterrent to that. Again, that economy of scale allows us to offer improved programming. That's our vision. So I don't know if that answers your question, Carol.
Sort of. I still see that we are in a struggle with Everest, right? To attract families and choose our district. When a family sees UC Everest and sees that they need a class size that's much smaller, how are we more attractive to those families coming to a larger class size? I graduated with a class of all over 4 years ago. So I come from a school, and we have 3 high schools in my community. Just to have more teachers, we'll have more staff, but you're also going to be additional leaders. And how are we going to show families that Wausau is the school to go to, when just next door we have this other school that's smaller and has more opportunities being smaller as well?
I don't think they could have more opportunities. I think that's one of our goals, is to have more opportunities, and again, kind of leverage our partnerships with businesses and NTC. So I guess I would disagree with you. And again, let's be careful with the term class size. Typically, when we talk about class size, we're talking about how many students are in a class at a time, right? 20, 25. Graduating class, I've heard that as a concern, but maybe I need to hear that.
We're going to be competing with each other's children for scholarships, for recognition, for honors, for getting into college. At the high school, class size matters. That graduating class size is a big deal, and at Everest, I told them I was concerned about athletics. That's not a kid of mine, but you've got more of an opportunity to be on a varsity team when you're in a smaller size.
Sure.
So those are things that I think we need to look for.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Carol.
Okay, we have a question over here.
Oh, good.
Actually, it's a question and a comment. I'm Joyce Greasy, and I taught at Wausau East for about 20 years. I was the IB coordinator for 13 years. And with a combination of the high schools, I can see many benefits and some issues also, as people are saying. But I think one of the chief attractions of the Wausau community is having both the AP program and the IB program. And so if the 2 high schools were combined, it would be ideal if both programs were maintained, I think, for the community.
Thank you. Yes, we have heard that loud and clear, and there's no reason we could not maintain both of those as we bring our students together in a cohesive way. I'm going to pause just for a second. Many of our board members have been involved in these conversations. I just want to make sure, is there anything anybody wanted to add at this point? Okay, all right. Do we have more questions or comments? Yeah. You got that coming behind you.
I promised myself I would keep my mouth shut, but I can't. My name is Lisa Moss. I have been a parent in the Wausau School District for 20 years. I have 2 graduates from Wausau East, and I have 1 middle schooler now. And I am also a substitute teacher in the district, so I see things from a lot of years and a lot of perspective. And the first thing I have to say is bravo to this school board for finally doing this. I have been waiting. My friends have been waiting. Our neighbors have been waiting. Our students have been waiting for the opportunity for everything that could possibly be ahead of us. People need to get less emotional about whether your child is going to be on varsity or JV. You need to be less emotional about if your school is going to close, you're not going to lose the teachers. You're not going to lose anything. But as a sub in the schools, I see how stretched the administrators are, the teachers are, and the behaviors that our students have. If you've never spent a day in a school, you might want to think about that. Like Mrs. Pond was saying, the opportunity here is unbelievable. From somebody who grew up in Chicago, I see people coming from bigger towns, or even maybe smaller towns, to see what we could have is a huge benefit. I feel like sometimes people just don't want change and think very small-minded. We need to be proactive. We need to be thinking ahead, and I think you guys are hitting the nail on the head, and I cannot thank you enough. And I really hope that some of these things that we see, come to fruition. I get it. I had lumberjacks. I understand. We need to take a little less emotion out and really think about all these things that have been put in front of us.
Thank you. John, back here. Sorry, right there. Thank you.
Hello. Wow.
Yeah.
Dr. Phelps, how long do you plan to be our superintendent?
Oh, I'm Dr. Hiltz.
I'm sorry, Hiltz.
Yeah, Dr. Phelps is over at Horace Mann. I don't know, as long as they let me.
Because these are pretty big changes. We've had lots of superintendents come and go. This is a dramatic change. I'd be personally unhappy to find that this all started and you left. Because this is truly a head of the ship kind of discussion. To further that, I don't like when I get misinformation. On the board, you had the closing of the Hewitt School, and you had those students going to Riverview. You had the class size getting smaller at Riverview with that change. It might be new math, but that's not possible.
It is. I'm sorry, because if you take 350 students and you take another 100, and you take all those teachers and combine them together, the class size does go down. That's just
the building's not that big.
It is actually. Yeah, we had our principals get together just recently, and we mapped it out, and they fit with actually some extra room in there. Yeah, sorry.
The other way to explain that is if you take, say, two large class sizes at Riverview that are sitting at 26 or 28, whatever they might be sitting at, and you take a smaller class size from Texas Hewitt sitting at 10 or 12, I have three teachers dividing all of those students up, you end up with smaller class sizes. That's where that reduction happens, is adding that additional section to that grade. Say you have two third grade classes that sit at 27, 28 students, and you have a third grade class over at Texas Hewitt sitting at 10. Take that total, divide it amongst three teachers, you'll end up with a smaller class size and a more even class size. And I think that's what you were talking about from a staff perspective, is you have teachers that are operating larger class sizes, seeing other teachers in other schools that are operating smaller class sizes, and having questions about that, right?
Thank you.
So continue this. The next question is, the real issue at our high school seems to be school choice. What are the implications of not following school choice or eliminating school choice within the Wausau School District?
Well, if I'm understanding you correctly, when you're talking about school choice between East and West?
Correct.
So that's one of our goals, is to give every student the same opportunities.
You're missing the question.
Okay.
The question is, people are choosing to go to West. If you eliminated that option and had the people that lived on the East Side go to the East Side schools, would that solve your problems?
I see. No, because the student density is just much less over here. So we would still not be able to offer the same programs. Our teachers would still have disparate working conditions. That would be similar to, I think, the changing boundaries argument, which we found did not accomplish many of our desired outcomes.
Why is that? Why would not changing the boundaries and equalizing the number of students in the schools, why would that not correct the problem?
Sorry? Oh, go ahead.
Why would you have that?
That's what I'm saying. Why would you continue that?
That should be evaluated in depth.
To me, it's cause and effect. By changing boundaries, you would initially equalize schools, right? But you won't change people choosing to move demographically either back over to another territory or outside of our school district. I know of an instance in my own circle of friends that they were actually denied what you were saying, where if we were to deny someone moving from Wausau East to Wausau West because of academics or sports, the district actually was not able to allow that. And for that reason, cause and effect, they actually went to DC Everest to pursue what it was they were trying to pursue in the Wausau West. So we lost that student. We didn't just, so changing boundaries is just, it's a temporary Band-Aid in the grand scheme of things. And what we're trying to provide or accomplish here is equal opportunities. And I think strategic focus and honing in on those programs, and whether it's curriculum or sports, really honing in on it and providing even better opportunities for our students. But I think it's a cause and effect. Changing boundaries or just denying.
You're missing the point. If both schools had the same curriculum, if both schools had the same opportunities, you wouldn't decide to go to a different school. You'd stay at the school you're at because your opportunities would be excellent. Yeah. And that's what we should be achieving.
So, Chief, I can offer an example.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Rauscher. I'm the Director of Secondary Education for the district. So I work with all the principals and all the students in grades 6 through 12 and in our charters. And as an example, we offer German 1 at Wausau West, and we offer German 1 at Wausau East. Those are the exact same courses. You could have the same description in the course book. But what happens is with the imbalance in enrollment is that we might not have enough students who actually sign up for the course for it to run at East. And sometimes we have the same issue at Wausau West. But if all those students were in one building, the students who are right now interested on the west side and interested on the east side together would make one class. So it's not just that East and West offer different things. With the imbalance in enrollment and the limitations that you have with having two schools, sometimes you just don't have enough students in one spot to run the classes that the students and families would like. So that's one of the other issues that I think doesn't come up when we talk about specific programs.
Thank you. Does that help?
It's a good answer, but it doesn't, you're still missing the point. If these schools offered these classes in both places, they wouldn't choose to go to West. If they had the opportunity to go to East, they'd stay at East. If you drew the boundaries so that the number of students in both schools were the same, you wouldn't have so many people at West and so many people at East. It's a disparity. You could make that disparity equal.
Sure.
And it takes a lot of work. I'm not saying that drawing these lines is an easy thing to do. This is a lot of work, but I can tell you that making the boundaries even is a whole lot easier than all this restructuring. Now, I don't know all the math about the economics of your elementary schools and what you want to close. Those are board decisions, as far as I'm concerned.
I think one
But
reason
this
that we're
inequality of the schools is what's at stake. That's what we're discussing tonight.
You've mentioned a couple times that people are missing the point, but I think the reason is maybe the foundation of information that we're starting from. You're starting from an assumption that there are a large number of students that live in the Wausau East boundary that have elected to go to Wausau West.
No, I've not said that.
Several times you've mentioned that not allowing students from East to go to West would balance things out.
I didn't say that either. I said you should choose that, you should consider that not being an option.
Okay, if it's not a problem, then why would it be suggested as something that should change? Now I'm confused too.
Very good. I'm happy that you're confused because a lot of this is confusing. And to be honest, I don't think we're being given enough information.
Well, so maybe it's not an important point, but I just wanted to note that we don't have a large number of students from the Wausau East side choosing to go to the Wausau West side. What we have is just not a large number of students that live on the Wausau East side. That's the issue. It's not.
That's where the redrawing of the boundaries is important.
Yeah, and that could be a temporary fix for making the numbers equal. Now, it wouldn't address the issue that was just brought up about oftentimes not having enough students to support a class split into two schools where we could if they were split or if they were combined into one. It wouldn't address the issues of trying to run, two technology programs in two different schools and trying to fund both of them, trying to fund everything twice. So it wouldn't address those issues. It could address some capacity issues. But there's a whole list of other issues that wouldn't address, even if we could assume that the boundary change would be a permanent thing. But it's not a point that isn't worth bringing up because we've brought it up. We've talked about it in board meetings. But boundary changes are one of the things we've discussed. It's one of the things that was discussed in the secondary subcommittee as well. They discussed boundary changes and what the pros and cons are to that.
Thank you. Oh, John, yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Winter. I'm the Career and Technical Education Coordinator. So I want to speak a little bit to the inequality of the programming at both schools. And one of the challenges, talking about changing boundaries and things like that, that might be a temporary fix or a Band-Aid, but I can speak on behalf of the challenges of finding the teachers that are teaching in these programs. And Brad, I think you're well aware of the engineering challenge, right? We have one teacher that teaches engineering who actually has a mechanical engineering degree. That makes Wausau School District elite in my mind. I bet you can't find another engineering teacher teaching in K-12 with a mechanical engineering degree. We have an automotive teacher that is known as the best teacher in the state of Wisconsin teaching transportation and diesel, auto mechanics, auto body and collision. Accounting is another example in my area. Very difficult to find accounting teachers that can teach accounting 4. Computer science, it's another very challenging subject matter to find a quality computer science teacher because they job out, they go into industry and they make additional salaries beyond what teachers make. So I can speak to the inequalities of programming from a teaching standpoint and a staffing standpoint. Very difficult to do. I can also tell you we have amazing teachers in all of those programs that we offer to students, but not at both schools. So that's part of the, changing a boundary might be able to change some numbers here and there, but again, we're not offering quality programs to all students.
And if I could, I think what you and Carol might be suggesting is just create the same programs at each school. Am I right? So, yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I think what Mr. Winter is talking about is one of the structural barriers we've found to being able to do that. We've had those conversations. We can't replicate the autos program in both high schools. We can't replicate the engineering program in both high schools. There's a number of programs that are very resource intensive and probably more so staff skill intensive that are not able to be replicated. And even if we could, the density of student population really wouldn't support it. So I hear what you're saying, and we've explored those, but structurally there are just barriers to that. But I appreciate you sharing that, because those are the kinds of things we need to explore. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there, in larger cities, there are high schools that specialize in certain areas. So is it possible that West could specialize in technology, that kind of thing?
Sure. Yeah, we've had that conversation. They're typically called an academy, and if I just back up here a second to that secondary, somewhere here. Oh, there it is. You see that academy with a question mark down on the bottom. So an academy typically is what it's called, what you're talking about, and you'd have one school that would specialize in certain areas. Often it's a technical area, and the other would be more of it could be like a fine arts school or something specialized like that. And again, what that in a district this size, as opposed to like a Racine or it divides our resources. It does not offer the same opportunities to all of our students. We aren't really able to support, for instance, a school that would be just like a trades or a technical school and a fine arts school and a business. We just don't have the student density to do that. Thank you, though.
Hi, my name is Paula Hayes, and I've taught at Muir, West, and East. I'm currently the librarian at East, and I've been here for 12 years. So first of all, I want to say I am just proud of what we do at Wausau East High School. Though we don't offer as many opportunities as West, I don't feel that we offer less. What we do offer is high quality and student-centered that builds on our teacher and student strengths. For example, right now at Wausau West, right now at Wausau East, a class is offered called Architectural Design, I think it's called, and Joel Pataconi, an art student, offers it here. My daughter goes to West. She won't have that opportunity. But what we did do is look through WAVE, and her interest is interior design, and she's looking at taking that as an online course next year. I taught for West for 5 years. I'm concerned about the mental health of our teenagers. I taught on the 3rd floor. For 5 months out of the year, I would go in the dark and leave in the dark. What is the effect of our students when they have no sunshine, and the one thing they see is a Chromebook and fluorescent lights for the majority of their day? If we restructure, will an auto shop be built on the west side? And will we need a referendum to add to West? I'm concerned if Wausau West starts to be at 1,700. When I was there, I believe we were at about 1,600, and it was extremely crowded. I don't think it was shown on this presentation, but at the last presentation, you used the top 100 schools in Wisconsin, and I don't think you showed that slide tonight. One of the schools that they used to compare us to was Whitefish Bay, which is a suburb of Milwaukee. That concerns me because they don't have the same socioeconomic needs, special ed needs that we do. I would prefer that you would use some data with people or school districts that have the same demographics as we do. And I guess my question as a taxpayer, as a parent, as a teacher, if we don't restructure, what programs will be eliminated, what will be the cost savings, and approximately how many students will be impacted? So I know that's very loaded. There's a lot of things out there, but I just don't feel I have enough information either.
Thank you, Paul. I can answer some of those, I suppose. Here's something we learned through our subcommittee. I mentioned this earlier. They spent, months learning about questions like that. Our goal in being here tonight is to give you an understanding of what the challenges are, and what we hope to accomplish, how we want to address those. And I'll be honest, if Paula wants to come and sit with me for a few hours, I could probably answer a lot of those questions. But that's, frankly, that's why we brought this subcommittee. It takes hours to understand funding, transportation, scheduling, staffing, to really be able to make an informed decision. And I guess if someone wants to do that, schedule some time with me and I will sit with you and do that. But you do have 9 elected people who represent you who have spent hundreds of hours, many of them, learning about this. What they want to hear from you is, what do you think of this? What other options are there to solve these immense, important challenges? So I guess I'm not going to answer your questions, Paula, specifically. I will say that the information that you referenced, I wouldn't, for instance, the Whitefish Bay reference, that list was just strictly a list of the 100 largest districts in the state. So that we aren't trying to compare class sizes to, Athens, a district of a few hundred students. We're just trying to give some comparable data that has some relevance. And so I guess I'm gonna not answer all your questions. I would say go to the website, and if you really have some questions, give me a call. I'm happy to sit down. And if I can't answer it, Bob would love to talk about school finance, and we've got ADs who would love to talk about it. We would love to answer anybody's questions. I don't know if I want to hold everybody here for those. Thank you, though, Paula. Yeah. Hi, Carol.
Hi. Carol Lukens, and I would like to echo, though, Paula's. I've thought of the same thing with mental health. I also was at West, and I know that this board has raised many times over the past couple of years the great concern about student mental health, and I've thought about that myself with no windows to the outside at West. I guess, and I'm not I would like to know too how the board feels about that in light of all the concerns raised regarding student mental health. I'm not expecting you to answer that right now, but I'm saying that it's one of my concerns. Another thing is that while I know, that academics is listed up there, sports is listed, I know we'll have phenomenal sports facilities as well, but what about, and I know you did speak to the, extra supports for kids, but I'm wondering how much have board members, have you visited the different schools as far as the students? Because I would also echo Paula's concerns about the number of children of poverty in our schools. And so, I believe this may have been brought up, but I'm at one of the charter schools, and if the charter schools were moved, we have students at our school that take East classes, so that would displace these students, and they're in high school. So, and I'm not, I know that you're exploring. My concern is how soon decisions will be made, and I guess I would really appreciate if there was more exploration, I guess, of some of this before decisions are made, because we want equal experiences or opportunities for all, but my concern is that might not happen, or that for some that really need those, they're not going to get those. So those would just be my questions.
Thank you.
I don't envy you the task, but I do have those concerns.
I feel like I need to respond a little bit to the mental health situation. I cannot believe that for the number of years that Wausau West has been open, that we've been negatively impacting the mental health of children because it doesn't have windows. We have strong relationships with kids. We have people who are trained to deal with mental health. We are not damaging children by putting them in Wausau West. So I want to say that. I will share too, It's not about me, but we start to share a little bit about I actually went to a school, a high school that was split. It was a 9, 10, 11, 12, and I will tell you, the feel of that 11, 12 campus was wonderful, very mature. It had no windows. It was built in the 70s. Does this sound familiar? Right? And those were the best years of my life, right? In high school. I wouldn't go back to that if but so one thing, I do not feel we are doing damage to students' mental health if they're attending West. Secondly, you referenced poverty. How do we interrupt the cycle of poverty? By giving opportunity, by giving support, by showing them what's possible in their lives and helping them get there. Doesn't matter what building they're in. It matters about the people and the opportunities we give them. Thank you. So, do we have other questions or comments?
I was not intending at all that we are hurting children or damaging children at West. I was there and I know what it's like to not have windows. And so, I mean, I would love to see there something to be done to, you know, if you spend all day at West, would you agree, Paula? Like, honestly, so I'm not saying we're damaging students, but there has been the mental health issue raised over and over, and I just know that there is like scientific evidence about, you know, sunlight, so that's why I was bringing that up.
Thank you. Anyone add anything? Oh, yes.
Hi, so I'm G. Schultz. I was on the elementary subcommittee, and I can tell you that the amount of education that we had to go through to get a baseline understanding for the elementary schools of what some of the challenges are between programming and funding. And I'm an accountant, and I spent almost 11 years working in government. And I can tell you that the funding structures, the funding streams that we have to maximize our state and federal dollars that we receive are complex, as well as the programs that we have at the elementary schools. And I mentioned this to Dr. Hiltz after our last subcommittee, that it's the amount of time and effort that it took for our small committee to understand all of the different complexities within within just trying to discuss just the elementary section. Is very difficult to then, how do we educate people to get on board with a larger plan? So I think, you know, from that standpoint I know you had mentioned that, you know, I feel like I don't have all the answers, I don't have all the data, because the data is a lot to go through. I spent 4 hours after one of the meetings just scrubbing one report that we got from Mr. Tess. And so, I mean, there's a lot of data to understand, and a lot of the ideas that were thrown up here, we did do a lot of analysis and trying to understand what are some of the benefits of things. And I know it's hard. I know that a lot of people want to think with emotions. And I mean, as a parent, do I want what's best for my kids? Yes, but I also have to look at a taxpayer. As a business owner myself, I can't attract new employees to my business if we don't have daycare. I cannot get new accountants for my firm if we don't have good accounting programs at the high school and good correlations with the tech and with the universities in this town. We're doing a detriment to our community if we say status quo is good enough, because it's not. I can tell you as a business owner, I moved here 15 years ago because I believed that this community would be what Appleton and Oshkosh is in 15 to 20 years. I haven't seen that happen. We're kind of at a standstill within our community, you know, so I think that as a community, we have to start to look at things differently and accept that we're not going to have all of the answers, because the numbers behind everything are extremely complex, but know that those people who are leading this and those people that are involved are evaluating everything along the way, and then trying to just double check with our community to say, hey, are we really off our rocker, or are we kind of going in an okay direction right now?
Thank you.
My question is, if we go with the junior high and senior high setup, is one school
is East slated better for the senior high or the junior high or vice versa? Has that decision been made yet?
If we went 8, 9, yes. We did explore either East or West in that scenario, and West does have more capacity. And so we would propose that the 10-12 be on the West campus.
The board and district administration to bring in your childcare providers from the community to the table, because like Jean said, we have a childcare crisis in our community, and if we do restructure to bring opportunity, we need to figure out how are we going to help our families. Not every school has before and after care, and it's paid. You have to pay for it. I mean, I paid almost my mortgage every month in before and after care for years, but not every school has it. So that's an inequality. Do we have to work with more child care providers to provide it at every school? Do you reach out to your other partners, like the place that I work, to try to figure out how we are providing more care to our elementary kids before and after school? And if we go to the elementary, middle, junior high, senior high platform, we're going to have 5th graders in a middle school. We're going to have parents that maybe will have kids in 4 schools, but for those, well, it could be pre-K, middle, it could be 5. I mean, it could happen if we have pre-K schools. How are we going to make sure that we have childcare opportunities for those 5th graders as well? Because I mean, I've got a 4th grader and a 7th grader, and I can trust my 7th grader, and my 4th grader I can sort of trust for a moment. So, and I work at the Boys and Girls Club, so we serve 3rd through 12th. And 5th graders need supervision, they need care, they can't be home alone, they can't be doing all these things. So we have to consider at least a before care option at that middle school as well. So please bring the community to the table for some of those discussions. The why, Wausau Child Care, Boys and Girls Club. We're probably the big hitters in helping solve that, but you need that in place too to help families feel comfortable with, okay, you're closing a school, our kids are going to another school, but we need to know that they can be cared for. And then we're going to have to figure out cost of that as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Carol. Yeah, Tabitha Gundrum, I don't know if she's here, she's our HR director, and I are part of a countywide group, including our child care providers and a number of others. And we are talking about that exact thing. How do we expand access to high quality childcare? How do we help retain the employees in that industry who have horrendous turnover rates? How do we make it more affordable for families? So the questions that you're bringing, that's exactly what we're working on. And we think that the concept I talked about earlier is one possible solution. And I'll just remind people, I don't know how much I said about it, but if we emptied one school or part of a school, we have some schools that just have capacity. If we could loan that space to a child care provider, now they can, without those overhead facility costs, they could afford to pay their employees more, and they could reduce the cost of the care, retain their employees, and expand child care. That's one of the models that seems to be emerging with some potential. So kind of consistent with what you're saying. We would love to bus kids. We got a little busing issue right now, in case people haven't noticed. We're working on it. Sorry, that's not funny. Oh, all right, back there first, yeah.
So since you just brought up the busing issue.
Really? You're really going to make me talk? Okay,
well,
go ahead.
I've been thinking about it, and I was just kind of holding off. But
yeah.
So we're out by Hewitt, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And there has already been an instance this school year where the buses just didn't run. So if you're going to bus children all the way into town, and all of a sudden the buses just decide not to pick up our child that day and bring them to school, it's a little bit of a haul for parents to, if they are home yet, to get their child to school. So I know children will adjust no matter what age they are to ride the bus for an hour, hour and a half, whatever they have to do. I rode the bus for an hour and a half many years living out in the country. My bigger concern with that is just the buses not picking up.
Yeah, ours too. We know. I will just share that the folks over at First Student are, if you have students who are being bused, you're aware of the tremendous effort they're trying to put into creative thinking, trying to solve that issue. Yes, transportation is probably one of our main concerns in this. And so as we continue to go down that path, we have a little team, we're talking about transportation. We don't have any answers yet for that. Did I put that on the cons? Longer bus rides, yes. So, but it's more than that too, and I hear what you're saying, so thank you for sharing that.
Hi, I'm Kelly Messman. 2 questions. I know that Wausau East has like regular class schedule, like AP, and I've heard that Wausau West has the
mod.
The mod. How are you going to merge those?
Yeah.
For the kids that, I don't want my kids sitting in a classroom for how many hours? I don't understand the mod, and I guess I need to learn more about it.
Sure.
And then the other question is, how are you going to address the parking situation at Wausau West when you're combining 2 high schools with 3 grades that drive?
Yeah.
And with that, like the other schools merging, the traffic, I've been a parent, I work in the school district, and I see what a nightmare it is. And so how is this all going to be addressed? Because
Sure.
it's a huge concern in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you. So regarding the flex mod schedule, when I got hired, they told me if I ever got rid of that, I'd be fired. So if you don't want me here, I'll just get rid of the flex mod and I'm sorry. The flex mod is very unique, and frankly, Wausau West was built to support it. It's a series of 15-minute transitions or 45-minute, and we've got experts here that could tell us a lot more about it. I will tell you that the merging of the 2 high schools and the planning that would have to go into that is a tremendous amount of planning. It makes us nervous, but more so, it really excites us as we talk to teachers about the possibilities that could emerge from a realigned 9-12 or 6-12 or 5-12 curriculum. Very, very exciting. So, yeah, I guess if you want to talk about the flex mod schedule, I don't know if I don't know if we'll keep it. I think we will, because people have been very committed to it. Again, that whole building is built around it. So I imagine it would stay. I guess that we are going to have to invest in time for our staff to come together to kind of recreate that system. So we don't know what it would look like yet, but we have a lot of content experts, planning experts that we can bring together and redesign that system. I'm sorry, what was the second question? Parking, yeah. We are looking at that right now. There is room to expand it a little bit. We've got some partners that are very good at designing campuses and buildings, and they can tell us what the needs are and what the solutions are. We don't have those, but we are working on that as well. Yeah, Jennifer.
Now I have a microphone. I will add the opportunities. I think that, although Keith's right, we certainly haven't made any decisions about schedules, because even the decisions about exactly what the restructuring would look like are still being formed. But I can tell you the conversations we've had is, if you have smaller grade bands in each of the buildings, it gives you a chance to really look at what would be most developmentally appropriate for the age of students there. So if you think about the high school possibly being a 10-12 building, that might be an ideal spot for something like Flex Mod, because it's much closer to what students might experience after high school, whether they're going into a 2-year program, a 4-year program, going directly to work. A lot of times there's flexible hybrid type models in those scenarios. Maybe an 8-9 building might have something that's closer to a traditional schedule with just a little bit of flex, because that might be more developmentally appropriate. But I think whether we're thinking about the classes we offer, the way we teach, the way we structure the day, this gives us an opportunity to really look at what do we know about how students grow and develop, and what can we do to best support and invite that development throughout their experience.
Thanks for sharing that. Sure.
Yeah, I have some retired friends who taught at SPASH, and they have a high school with 2,500 students or so, and they said it's a factory. It is so crowded, day after day after day. And do we really want that for high school kids? Do high school kids really want that kind of situation? I think not. 900 students is a nice size high school. There are high schools that are 200 or 300 kids who offer German and Spanish and so on. I think you've got to think about that. Wausau East is not a small school.
Thank you. Thank you. How about, oh, we got one more here. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
I was wondering if you thought about the people that are going to leave when you close the elementary schools. Have you asked the families if they might leave and go to DC Everest, Anago, Merrill, Mosinee, parochial? That's gonna take your enrollment down.
Sure, yeah. We haven't asked. Frankly, one of the things that we hope to reverse is that open enrollment trend. I mentioned it earlier. People are already choosing to leave. We've got to step up our game to make sure that we can keep the families who live here. Might some folks leave? They might in the short term. But as we expand programming, as we expand opportunities for kids, as we improve supports for kids, we will reverse that open enrollment trend and keep the folks who live within our boundaries. So yeah, I would expect that our open enrollment out would grow a little bit for a short period of time. How about if we do this? What time is it? 6:45. We've been here an hour and 45 minutes. I know some of you might have some more questions that maybe you don't want to ask in front of the big group, or maybe you want to think about this a little bit. How about if we end this session? We can schedule some more. And if you have questions, I'm happy to stay. There are others here who are happy to stay and who have some more specific expertise. So let me end by thanking you for coming. Sometimes these conversations get a little challenging. That's healthy, right? Everybody wants the same thing. We want what's best for kids. We want what's best for the community. So this is a good, healthy conversation. Would anybody care to say anything in closing? Okay, I guess we are closed. Move to adjourn. Anybody? All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. Look forward to further conversations.